welcome. This video is part of our series of videos that are designed to provide an introductory and simple explanation to our product offering. For those of you who work for a major US wireless carrier, please check our LinkedIn user group that is dedicated to the specific equipment that is used by your carrier. In general, we are always here to help, both in the design, in explanation, via webinar, one-on-one, any which way that we can do to help in making our product user-friendly and useful for you on your particular application. Thank you for your attention, and here's the video.
Hello, this is Britt. Today I'm going to give a brief overview of Optical Zonu's S14 Managed Switch module. So, independent of management and control, the S14 is a 5-port Layer 2 managed Ethernet switch. There are 4 RJ45 ports on the S14, and a 5th gigabit Ethernet port is realized by Optical Zonu's patented small form factor pluggable optical transceiver. There's also an RJ45 connector for local console management and control. There are status LEDs that give the status of the switch as well as the SFP and the S14 module itself. And there's a USB connector to connect to various chassis that are to be monitored. Optical Zonu's SFP is a standard MSA part that will communicate with any other SFP. The SFPs incorporate Optical Zonu's patented micro OTDR technology. Using this technology, fiber faults can be quickly located and repaired. Optical Zonu's Gigabit Ethernet SFP is an MSA compliant module, so it will communicate with any other SFP. When used together with another Optical Zonu SFP, Optical Zonu's patented micro OTDR technology may be employed for quickly locating and repairing fiber faults. The S14 module plugs into a variety of Optical Zonu chassis, including the J chassis, the 1RU J chassis, the single slot module enclosure, and the newer 3RU J3U chassis. A major advantage of using the S14 Managed Switch module is its capability of managing multiple chassis and perhaps even multiple racks of chassis. Some systems may require a dedicated management and control module in each chassis, and therefore perhaps a dedicated IP address for each chassis. Optical Zonu's module, S14 module, may reside in a single chassis and be connected via serial USB to multiple other chassis to be monitored. If the S14 module is to manage and control a single chassis, a dedicated USB connection would be made from the S14 module to a mini USB connector on the chassis to be monitored. If the S14 module is to monitor multiple chassis or multiple racks of chassis, there would be a dedicated serial USB connection from the S14 to a USB hub, which in turn would connect to all of the Optical Zonu equipment to be monitored. So all of these Optical Zonu chassis that can be managed have a mini USB connector. So on the 1RU J chassis, that's in the front. On the 3RU J3U chassis, the mini USB connectors are actually on the back. So both the eFiberSat indoor unit as well as the OZC 9500 units can be monitored via USB connection. And also the single slot J chassis module can be monitored via a mini USB connector. The eFiberSat outdoor unit may also be monitored with the S14 module via optical connection between SFP in the outdoor unit and the SFP in the eFiberSat indoor unit. After all optical Zonu equipment to be monitored is connected to the S14 module via serial USB, there are essentially four ways to interface, four ways for the user to interface with the optical Zonu management and control. The first is a very simple console command line interface, which can be accessed over the internet or locally via the RJ45 on the S14 module. Optical Zonu also supplies an embedded web user interface, which shows basic tables of information for the system. One may interface via Optical Zonu's graphical user interface, and the S14 module supports SNMP version 2 and version 3. So now I will show some actual examples of the user interfaces.
So the basic ways to interface to the S14 Managed Switch is via SSH application by opening a terminal into the switch and communicating via command line interface, logging into the IP address of the S14 switch and using a simple tabular web user interface. One may use Optical Zonu's graphical user interface, and one may also write their own applications using SNMP version 2 and version 3. All of the applications and firmware reside within the agent of the S14 module, so no external program is required other than just a web browser. So with the command line interface, I can set up the network IP addresses and add user accounts to the S14 switch. I can show all of the chassis currently being monitored by the switch. I can show the particular details of a specific chassis. I can show the status of particular slots within a chassis. I can show the status of the S14 switch ports, and I can set SNMP parameters, among other things. The tabular web user interface presents the same information essentially as the command line interface. We can get a listing of all of the chassis and devices currently being monitored by the S14. We can look at the inventory, or essentially the status of all of the modules currently housed by a particular chassis. We can track all the alarms currently being reported by the system. We can see the status of the switch itself, all of the switch ports, and the SFP. We can adjust the settings for the SNMP version 2 and version 3. We set up all of the S14 addressing and connections to network time servers. And we can perform firmware updates remotely. Using the Optical Zonu J-Control graphical user interface, we can look at our system at multiple levels. We can define multiple racks of equipment. We can look at the particular characteristics of a specific chassis within the system. We can drill down to see specific parameters and status of a particular module within a system. This module happens to be a dual receiver, so we have subslots within this module, a receiver 1 and a receiver 2. We can also get status on the switch itself, as well as on the power supply. the graphical user interface also saves a complete log of events for the entire system.
So this has been a brief overview of the Optical Zonu S14 Managed Switch module. For more information, please visit us at www.opticalzonu.com. Thank you.